Hello everybody, this is Pastor Green. I wanted to share a quick video about my visit to the Ark Encounter. Make sure you guys subscribe, like, and comment. If you'd like to have some of your friends see this, you can always share it as well. So when you get to the Ark Encounter, you got to park in this big parking lot. And then when you're in the parking lot, you can actually see the Ark Encounter from pretty far away. It's pretty amazing when you first see it. They also have zip lines there. You can see it on the right. Then you have to take a big old bus. It's about a minute bus ride to the actual Ark Encounter. And then when you get off the bus, there's going to be a rainbow there as you enter the Ark. It's got a verse on there. I've set my rainbow in the clouds. And then when you get there, you see this gigantic Ark. It's amazing. The size of it just baffles your mind. There's all these different topiaries, different animals that are actually 2x2 heading their way to the Ark. And then it says a little verse here. It says, "Welcome to the Ark." It's just a really quick thing. It says, "Noah in his 600 years, much happened. His father Laman passed away 5 years ago. His grandfather Methuselah died in the past year at the age of 969. 7 days ago, the Lord commanded Noah to enter the Ark with his family. So Noah and his wife and their 3 sons and their wives spent the past week loading the animals on, and now storing the last of the provisions of the Ark. They need to hurry because the storm's almost here." So as you walk around the corner in this little garden area, you're going to see these little monuments. And the monuments just basically say, what does the stones mean? And it talks about, people would pile up these stones as a monument. So that way when people saw them, it'd be like a remembrance of what happened in the past. So you walk into the Ark, and they have a little green screen there where you can take pictures and things like that. There's sounds of storms. And you walk into deck 1. When you walk in there, you see these cages. And if you look at the cages, you can see on each one of the cages that would be stored small animals. You see this little brass or porcelain thing on the right-hand side of it, and that's where the water would go. You put water in there. It was almost like feeding your hamster. It would be a way that water would always be in the hamster's cage. And on the left there, you're going to see some type of a box or whatever that you put the grain or oats or barley or whatever in it to feed the animal. And this is just a small little thing. It mentions, basically what they would do. They were set up in a way that when the animal would go to the bathroom, the droppings would basically go down this little tube all the way to the very bottom. And then you could just scoop all the stuff off at the very, very bottom to clean up afterwards. And it mentions the smart feeders and how you would feed and water the animals. This is going to be a picture of these big, huge vessels, porcelain vessels, that most likely would hold water. They were in the Ark for over a year, so they would need to take water with them. They could also get water from some of the rainwater for the first 40 days. And then at the end of this little first area, you're going to see Noah and his family praying. It's like a little statue that's built up there. There's different things on here. It talks about Noah did bring many animals on the Ark that was now extinct. And it mentions, most of the animals that are extinct. And, obviously he brought dinosaurs on there and stuff. And you can see in cages some of these little animals. It's an artistic rendering of what they might look like, the different kinds. So, it's just they're kind of like in cages or whatever. And it's the same situation where they have an area where food would go, an area where water would go. Different animals that are in cages in the Ark. So some kind of a pig kind, I guess. And then this right here is going to be the Noah's Ark model. It shows you Noah's Ark. It shows you the 3 different decks. And it shows you how massive it would be, how it would be built up, things like that. Then on the side, it talks about different animal kinds that would be on the Ark. The question really is, would it be 1,398 animal kinds, or 6,744 animals, or maybe more, or maybe less? Then, of course, you got to think about 2 of each kind of unclean animal and 7 of the clean animals. Would that be 7 males and 7 females, or 1 male and 6 females? I obviously believe it's going to be 1 male and 6 females because that's going to be important for breeding later. But it's just an estimate. I always say this, we're usually right around 8,000 animals or less, or 8,000 um, different animals or less. And then you walk up this little pathway to deck two. Deck two is kind of where things start getting more interactive. If the first section there is going to have pictures on the wall, and then there's going to be a Noah's interview where basically it's like a fictitious thing where people are interviewing Noah, and then there's going to be more animals and different things like that. So you get to the very top of it, and it talks about the 7 days of creation and what was created during the first 6 days, and then obviously 7 days a day of rest. And then it talks about, imagining this perfect world, imagining how Eden would be. No sorrow, no disease, no bloodshed, no death. God creates this perfect world, perfect marriage, perfect humanity, perfect authority. How amazing the Garden of Eden would be. And then, of course, it talks about man's rebellion. It talks about, even Adam ate of the tree and started this corruption. And then, of course, Adam's sin brings death in the world. They get separated. They get kicked out of Eden. And then God provides a substitute. He takes an animal and he sacrifices it. He uses that animal's skin to make clothes for Adam and Eve because they were naked. And then the first sacrifices happen, and from then on, a sacrifice needs to have blood. And so, of course, God banishes Adam and Eve out of Eden, and they got to fend for themselves. And then, of course, later on, their children, Cain and Abel. Cain ends up murdering Abel. I believe he was jealous. They both made a sacrifice to God, but Cain's was not acceptable and Abel's was, and so Cain kills Abel. It's the first murder listed in the Bible. And then you got to imagine this godless world, full of sorrow, disease, bloodshed, death, people worshiping themselves, worshiping Satan, and not exactly worshiping God. And they also have an abusive creation. They don't really care what God says. They're going to do their own thing. You see them hunting some triceratops here, basically for the fun of it, And even today, men are killing things just to say, look how big of a buck I killed, look how big of a moose I killed, and they're basically abusing the fact that God made these animals for enjoyment, but also for food. And if you're just going to kill an animal to take a trophy, then that's not really a very good use of creation. And of course, there's going to be wars because people are going to want to have more land. And this is going to be all the stuff that's going to happen before the ark. Then all of a sudden, the pre-flood world was exceedingly wicked and deserved to be judged. So all these people were told that the flood's coming and they need to repent, but they didn't listen. So God caused it to flood. And then you can see a couple more animals that are going to be in this little section. If you look right there to the left, you're going to see this bamboo pipe with food in the bottom. Behind the one, you're going to see this little porcelain. That's where the water would come in at. So different other animals you can see right there to the left, some more of where the water would go. And this is one of Adam's son's wives basically feeding the animals. You're going to see they take grain or wheat or barley or some type of a food, and they're going to put it down those tubes to feed the animals. And there's one of his sons filling up either water or food as well. And this is just a picture of Noah just sitting there hanging out, doing his writings. He's going to document everything that happened on the ark. This right here would be the carpentry area where they make different carpentry to maybe fix up the boat or to make different cages for the animals. Next door is going to be the blacksmith area. Tubal-Cain, it says in the Bible, Tubal-Cain was an artisan of iron and brass, so they knew how to work with metal. And this is just kind of like a fictitious story of what might have happened with Abraham. Maybe at a young age he was really into creation, so he decided to work for a boat builder and honed his skills in carpentry and blacksmithing. And his family, he was really a big family man, and he was very religious, and he prayed to God and things like that. And maybe that's like his backstory. And this is like a little statuette of the picture we saw before about the godless nation. they were worshiping. Obviously, if you look at that little person on the throne there, it's like a serpent. So they're kind of worshiping the devil instead of worshiping God. And there's a little area for the kids. It's called Kids Spooky Animal Encounters, and I walk through it, and it's got like opossums and bats and things like that in there, foxes, different nocturnal animals. It says what do animals do when Noah's family is sleeping, and there's a couple little areas that there's strobe light or wind flashes, and I wouldn't really say that it's scary, but there's a couple little jump things in there for kids. As soon as you first walk in, there's this little tiles you can open up, and it says, "Hey, look at this animal. Could you make that face?" And when you turn the corner, you can see it through the glass, and you can see all the funny people making those faces. Then you go a little further, and you see this thing called a fairy tale ark. And basically, what it's saying is there's all these different interpretations of what they think the ark looked like. It's a little small bathtub boat with all the animals' heads sticking out, and how that gives a really bad representation of what the ark really looked like. When kids see all these animals sticking out, and you go to school and the professors say, well, boys and girls, obviously Noah couldn't fit all these animals on the ark. I mean, look at these pictures. Their animals are sticking their head out, and the giraffes got their head out of a porthole. But when you really actually have the real ark, it's a little more realistic to people. And then you go a little further, and they have this thing called the door. It talks about the door. I am the door. Whoever enters through me will be saved. Noah would have had all the animals go up to the second floor and go through this gigantic door, and that's how they would get onto the ark. And you can see this big door right here. People stand in front of it and take photos. And just so you know, if you look at the third piece of metal from the bottom, that's about where my head was. It was this gigantic door. And basically, in the Bible, it mentions that God told Noah, "Come into the ark." And when he says "come into the ark," that means he's already in there. The whole entire time, God was with them throughout this whole entire trouble. And there's actually a book you could get. It's called "The Doors of the Bible," I believe it is. It talks about different things. And if you look at the right there, you can see this keepsake photo. You can see how people standing there and how big of a door that is. I mean, it's a ginormous door. Right next to the door, there's this girl there. This just help me understand. And it's all these different questions. Why is death a punishment for sin? Why is it just for God to judge the world? Why is God cruel? Things like that. And basically, there's different answers on there. It's a kind of a cool statue. You can see the girl right there. It says, was the living God allow so much death and suffering? It basically answers all these questions for you with this girl sweeping the deck there. And then you go up to deck 3, and that's where it's really interactive. There's a lot of videos and stuff like that. And unfortunately, I was talking to a bunch of people, and I was answering their questions. I didn't get a whole lot of pictures up here, but I got a couple of them, so I'm just going to share. So you go up there, and you see like the living quarters for Noah, his wife, and his 3 sons and their wives. And the interesting thing about it is they basically say maybe the way you see the different races in the world, obviously Noah and his 3 sons are going to be the same race because they're all his sons. But maybe Noah's sons' wives were different races. Maybe one was like Oriental, and one was African, and one was more European. Maybe that's how the races got there. Or it's possible that maybe because they were all olive skinned, they have the complexity to be either white or dark, and maybe that's where the races came from. But this is just the living quarters, what they did in their spare time. You can see a guy over here playing a musical instrument, girls down there painting some kind of a pottery. This is gonna be they're just kind of hanging out, laying in bed, minding their business or whatever. This is a little kitchen. You can see like people in there cooking food. There's different types of squash down there and onions and stuff. And maybe this would be their kitchen would be at. Growing food on the ark, they would obviously be able to put plants and stuff like that on the ark and grow them. You can see all these different things here. They have different utensils for digging and things like that for the ark. If you look to the left there, you're going to see like a little cage where there's soil. There's plants growing out of the soil. There's hanging pots where you can grow like strawberries and blueberries and grapes and things like that. They always had a vegetarian diet. God basically told them that they're all going to be vegetarians. And after the Ark Encounter, they actually were able to eat meat. Here's just a loom. You can see like they were making different type of clothing or different type of blankets or something like that. Just an idea of what they could be doing on the Ark. One of Noah's sons and his wives, sitting on this couch, just kind of hanging out and enjoying life. This is a representation of Noah letting animals leave the Ark to see if there's dry land. This one here is showing he's letting a dove go, and we know the story that he left out a dove, and the dove came back with an olive leaf, and he sent it out a second time, and it didn't come back, and so that's how Noah knew that the land was dry again. As you turn the corner here, there's another little video you can watch, and there's a lot of interactive stuff. Some of the stuff outside, or some of the stuff before that's going to be about the Ice Age and different ways it took care of animals and things like that. I didn't get a picture of that because I was talking to people. I talk to people all the time there, and I get carried away sometimes. But then you go outside the Ark, and they've got like a little zoo out there. Different animals you could see. It's called the Ark Zoo, I believe it is. And you can just see different animals out there, and they have a little petting zoo where you could like pet the goats and stuff like that. They also have, I think this right here is a stork. There's like an emu right there. And they also have camels. And the cool part about the camel area is they do camel rides. They used to be able to let anybody under 250 pounds ride it. Now they only let kids ride if they're under 18. But you can do camel rides out there as well. They go around, I think, 2 times, and then the kid gets off, and they get a space where you can take your, pose and take for your kid's picture. All this more animals that they have out there, the zebras and stuff like that, donkey. And then at nighttime around Christmas, they have a light show down there, and the whole place is lit up, and you can see lights, and it's really fun to walk through there. They got this restaurant there. It's called Esmeralda's. It's an all-you-can-eat restaurant. I want to say it's $17 a person during the daytime. But if you do a paid admission to go see the Ark, you can get in there for $5 off, which makes the adult admission, I think, like $11 or $12 or something like that. And they got a pretty good spread in there. You can check it out. This is a picture of the place from the outside at nighttime. I ate there, and my favorite thing was the Brussels sprouts. And I know not a lot of people like Brussels sprouts, but I thought they were fantastic. And you walk around and you see different animals with color in lights, and you see the different trees and lights. You see the animals right there crossing, heading towards the Ark, elephants and camels and stuff like that. There's some elephants up close. You can kind of see them crossing over the river there. There's some camels, some giraffes. And this right here, I really thought was cool on the Ark, that where that cross is, that's where that big door was on the outside, and you could see it at nighttime. They have it, they have it glowing really well. This is the big view of the whole Ark, and you can again see that cross right there where the big door is. I kind of zoomed in on it just to kind of enhance it. I thought that was really cool that they had a cross on the door for the outside. But that's the Ark. It was a good time. I'm sorry I didn't get a lot of pictures from upstairs, but upstairs they have a lot of pictures and videos and things like that. How do they get sun on the Ark? How do they get water in the Ark? How do they get rid of wastes and stuff like that? And it's a pretty awesome area up there. Anyways, guys, that's the video. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, comment, share it if you want your friends to see. I go to the Ark and the Creation Museum all the time, so maybe I'll do one of the Creation Museums sometime in the future. You guys can comment below. Have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.